SLT speed up සවාරිය සමගින් සද්දන්ත වාසි රැල්ලක්. අලුත් broadband සබඳතා සඳහා පළමු මාස දෙක පුරා data double speed up with SLT.
Making headlines on First at 9. No trust. Archbishop of Colombo say no politician or pledge can be trusted anymore. Difficult times will pass. Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe assures stabilised economy by 2025. For better prospects. First phase of oil exploration in seas off northern and eastern coasts kick off.
With the data we have realized that the country is so lucky that we are on a positive track.
Baseless accusations. Minister Field Marshal Sarat Fonseka dismisses claims that underworld activities increased under government of good governance. No watering down. British Premier vows no compromise before Britain's exit from EU. A very good evening to you and welcome to First at 9 on Derana 24/7. I'm Katrina Chang. Now moving on to our top story tonight. Sri Lanka and Nepal linked two Memorandum of Understanding to strengthen relations as part of President Maithripala Sirisena's visit in the country. President Sirisena also met with his Nepali counterpart Bidya Devi Bhandari and Secretary General of SAARC Amjad Hussain BCL.
President Maithripala Sirisena, who is engaged in a two-day state visit to Nepal, met with the President of Nepal, Bidya Devi Bhandari, yesterday. During discussions between the two leaders, the Nepali President had apprised President Sirisena that the Gautam Buddha Airport in Siddharthanagar in Nepal will be developed into an international airport, facilitating direct international flights to benefit Sri Lankan Buddhist pilgrims. Two agreements were also inked during the meeting, one between Institute of Foreign Affairs of Nepal and Bandaranaike International Diplomatic Training Institute on training sessions for government officers of both countries, and the second on cooperation for youth development between the two nations. Meanwhile, President Sirisena also met with the Secretary General of SAARC, Amjad Hussain BCL, at the SAARC headquarters in Kathmandu today. President Sirisena then engaged in cordial discussions with Sri Lankans living in Kathmandu. Later in the day, he also visited Kathmandu's first Theravada Buddhist temple, Anandakuti Vihar.
Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe pledges that the country's economy will be stabilised by 2025, although difficult decisions had to be made by the government to resurrect the economy. The Premier made the remark at an event held in Badulla today.
The second phase of the rehabilitation project of A5 road corridor from Badulla to Chenkaladi commenced under the patronage of Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe today. Improvements to the 147-kilometre stretch, one of the major roads linking parts of the central province to the eastern province, will cost 9.6 billion rupees.
Any new government would want to launch their own development projects when in power. But all we inherited was a debt burden, so we had to think about taking the country forward without letting it be destroyed. Now we can at least pay off our debts and allocate adequate funds to govern the country. This is why we had to take difficult decisions leading to public disapproval. We even lost the local authorities' election. Amidst all this, we still managed to stabilise the economy. In 2013, the government revenue was 1,137 billion rupees and it took 1,162 billion rupees to pay off the debt component and interest. We never wasted the last 3 years doing nothing. We've done everything to uplift the country's economy. But the difficult period isn't over yet. We will ensure the economy stabilises by 2025 so that we settle off our entire debt burden.
Minister of Petroleum Resources Development Arjuna Rantungi invites investors to be a part of Sri Lanka's hydrocarbon exploration process. Addressing the inauguration to commence the second seismic survey for hydrocarbon exploration in the north and east, Minister Rantungi expressed hope for the country's oil and gas exploration process, saying the data obtained on possible oil deposits are positive.
The operation to identify natural gas and oil deposits in deep seas off the northern and eastern coasts of Sri Lanka got underway today. The research vessel BGP Pioneer arrived in Colombo port today and will sail into deep seas to obtain data on possible hydrocarbon deposits. The ceremony to mark the launch of the project was held at the East Terminal at the Colombo port today under the patronage of Subject Minister Arjuna Ranatunga.
I think when we took over the ministry, we were very concerned and very interested in getting the exploration started. We had a couple of meetings with Total and Slambuja. Through those meetings, we had the opportunity to convince them to come to Sri Lanka and start collecting data. So we are looking at doing 2D data at the start, and if positive, then they will look at the 3D data. That is where we will know for sure whether we have gas and oil. With the data we have realized that the country is so lucky that we are on a positive track, and we can't give you a date what will happen in the future, but to do the exploration we need to have the data. So that is where, when you are looking at exploration, you need a lot of money to be invested. So that is where we are looking at an investor to come and help us and share whatever we have. This will be the initial start, and within 8 weeks we will get all the data, and from there we will take the next step.
This is a two-dimensional seismic survey. It's going to happen in the exploratory blocks of JS5 and JS6. It's 5,000 line kilometers, and this is the largest 2D seismic survey in the history of Sri Lanka's oil exploration. We hope to complete the acquisition process within 40 to 50 days, and thereafter the data will be processed in the technical centers of Slambuja in Kuala Lumpur. The geoscientists attached to the Petroleum Resources Development Secretariat, as well as geoscientists attached to Total, will conduct evaluation of the data, and then they will make decision on the proceeding steps.
Minister of Sustainable Development, Wildlife and Regional Development Field Marshal Sarat Fonseka refutes accusations that underworld incidents have increased under the present regime. Addressing an event in Colombo, Field Marshal Fonseka went on to say that all wrongdoers should be brought before the law.
Notorious persons like Angadalokka and Makandure Madush have been engaged in criminal activities for the past 10 years. It is unfair to say that the underworld activities increased after this government came to power. Some media frame my innocent supporters as underworld figures in order to sling mud at me. It is the media that made one of the university students who was with me look like a thug. Some in the police department support such shameful acts. The government should wipe out underworld activities, and that should be done according to law. I'm completely against shooting suspects on the accusation that they attempted to attack the police. That was not done even during the war.
Former President Mahinda Rajapaksa says that the Sri Lanka Podujana Perumuna was formed as he was sent away from the Sri Lanka Freedom Party. He made this remark today addressing a meeting by elected members to the local government bodies in Monaragle district representing the SLPP.
Today is the 2nd of September. The Sri Lanka Freedom Party was formed on a day like this 67 years ago by Mr. Bandaranaike and my father. We sacrificed a lot for the party. It was during my period that the Sri Lanka Freedom Party had its strongest reign. The SLFP had the majority in parliament, and we had the majority in all provincial councils and the Pradesha Sabhas as well. I handed over the leadership of such a party to a new leadership. However, we were sent away. We humbly left. As a result of that, the SLPP was born. Because of the SLPP, all of you became winners and are here today. We expect all of you to be in Colombo on the 5th. There are some efforts to block our protest. Anyhow, they won't be able to block us, and we will invade Colombo. We consider this as the first step towards defeating this government.
Professionals of the Vietmagga organisation challenged the government to publicise the recently introduced pricing formula for fuel. Professor Ranjit Premala De Silva of the University of Peradeniya, addressing media today, claimed that such a formula does not exist.
We have identified that there are problems in the current political scenario. It's the system that is corrupt. And I don't need to emphasize that any further, because as citizens of Sri Lanka, day in and day out, we experience all these things.
As a group of professionals, we use the Vietmagga platform to put on the table some of the burning issues that we have at our hands today. And we need to resolve these issues, and also not only showing the issues, we also propose some of the solutions that can be really implemented to resolve the problems and bring this country to a prosperous situation. Unfortunately, presently there is no mechanism to harness the knowledge and expertise of professionals in this country. That's why we are in this dire state.
I recently saw the government speaking about introducing a fuel pricing formula. Accordingly, they amended fuel prices in May, June and July. As a person who is knowledgeable on statistics, I cannot accept this formula, and this is a falsification. I challenge the government to show this formula of theirs.
UMP MP Martin Sanaka says that steps are underway to present an evaluation bill in Parliament in the near future. The bill will subject future projects undertaken by the government to careful analysis in order to ascertain viability of projects prior to implementation. A media workshop pertaining to the importance of parliamentarians utilising evaluation as a tool to make evidence-based decisions was held in Colombo recently. In line with the concept, Eval Colombo 2018, organised by the Global Parliamentarians Forum for Evaluation, will kick off in Colombo from the 17th to the 19th of this month and will see the participation of 98 parliamentarians from across the world. Speaking to media, UMP MP Martin Sanaka said that the evaluation bill will ensure transparency in how public funds are spent on government projects.
98 members of parliament have confirmed their participation on the 17th and 18th and 19th of September. They are coming to ensure that Sri Lanka also plays a role in evaluations, especially government money that has been allocated for projects and things that the government is doing. We have presented the act to a paper to Cabinet, and Cabinet has endorsed that. And thereafter we will have a parliamentary act, a bill in Parliament, to ensure that every government institution, government department and ministry will fall in line with the evaluation goals.
Leader of the Janata Vimukti Peramuna Anura Kumara Dissanayake criticised the government for selling national assets and natural resources of the country, saying that the government has proved that they have no other economic strategy left. He made this remark addressing the media at the JVP headquarters today.
The set of proposals made by the Asian Development Bank along with an American company, which was later handed over to the government, contains policies and measures suggesting that the Employees Provident Fund make investments in the stock market. The EPF has invested 5% in private companies at the stock market. Now it is to be increased to 40%. This report also suggests that members of the EPF be enabled to invest the 60% of the remaining in the stock market. From 2008 to 2000, EPF has faced a loss of 28 billion rupees due to investing in the stock market. A clause in the Act of 1958 clearly states that the EPF should gain a minimum of 2.55% of profit in any investment. But this set of proposals suggests the removal of the minimum percentage. In every passing second, the government has proved that there is no other economic strategy except for selling national assets and natural resources of the country.
Archbishop of Colombo, His Eminence Malcolm Cardinal Ranjit, says that it has come to a point where trust regarding any politician has been broken in the country. The Cardinal made the remark at a conference held in Buddhist Cultural Centre today.
They change places every 5 years. Each new government changes everything that the previous government did and starts them all over again. There was a government claimed to be the most just societal, and it turned out to be the most contrary. They carried on with murders. Although everyone accuses everybody else, the culture of enforced disappearances is nothing new because it has been there for the last 20 to 30 years. It won't stop. All we want is an independent country which wouldn't be influenced by foreign forces. A country that has its own economic process with people who respect each other's dignity. We should be a country that gives a beautiful future to our next generation. But there is a question as to whether we can trust any of these politicians here at the moment to do what is required.
You are
watching Sri Lanka's award-winning news channel, Derana 24/7.
Welcome back to the news. Now, will the country expect a change in the slogan Sri Lanka, Wand of Asia in the near future? We might just be, as Secretary of the Ministry of Tourism, V. Soti says that a new country branding for Sri Lanka tourism will be unveiled at the World Travel Mart, which is to be held in London in November this year. Speaking exclusively to First at 9, he added that a committee has been appointed by the President and Prime Minister to spearhead this task. Meanwhile, giving his insight into developing the tourism sector, business tycoon Dhammika Perera says that if Sri Lanka is to improve its tourism sector, certain barriers that will curtail tourist arrivals will have to be removed. From slogans such as land like no other to small miracle to wand of Asia, Sri Lanka has undergone changes in its branding strategy over the years. But what makes successful strategy? The 2017 Nation Brand Report released by Brand Finance United Kingdom showed that Sri Lanka has dropped one place in its rankings from 58 to 59, with just a 4% increase in brand value to $77 billion. Therefore, it is evident that if Sri Lanka is to climb up the ranks of nation branding, much is needed to be done to attract the right market to achieve its target of $7 billion in foreign exchange earning by 2020. According to the Sri Lanka Tourism Strategic Plan, the government's strategy surrounds 4 key areas, which include sharpening brand focus, embrace digital age, harness the power of staging and building stronger partnership, adding that an inclusive, holistic approach is required to achieve Tourism Vision 2025 and work towards the UN Sustainable Development Goals. It is in this backdrop the government recently announced that the country will undergo a new country branding for Sri Lanka tourism, which will be unveiled at the World Travel Mart in London in November this year.
This committee is supposed to study the past, and also their tourism experts are there. They are able to see the tourism sector in Sri Lanka and the forward-looking process, and then how other countries have branded, and then they have their country branding, how do they place their country branding. All those things will be studied, and they will suitably come out with a branding.
The Secretary to the Ministry added that the government aims to attract high-end tourism as part of its strategic plan.
Tourism is the third sector which contributes significantly to the foreign exchange earnings. And Sri Lanka is also very concerned about having more high-spending tourists. We have a very optimistic target to achieve $7 billion tourism foreign exchange by 2025.
However, what can be done to improve one of the country's most lucrative foreign exchange earner? Speaking at an event recently, founder and MD of Valuable One Group, Dhammika Perera said introducing budget airlines in the equation will enable the development of tourism.
Because there are 90,000 rooms in Sri Lanka that are readily available, we have the necessary infrastructure to bring in an additional 1 to 1.5 million tourists. This will generate an income of 2 billion rupees. But if you wish to attract this 2 billion, the government will have to remove certain barriers, like certain unnecessary visa fees which hinder entry, and establish internal flights to improve domestic connectivity. Because if you look at countries like Singapore, Malaysia and Thailand, they bring 50% of their tourists through budget airlines. If you give a package that entails budget airlines, you can reduce prices and increase the number of tourist arrivals by 50%. Therefore, getting an additional 1 million tourists is not a difficult task.
Analysts expect low turnover levels in the equity market over the course of next week. During the concluded trading week, the All-Share Price Index gained 0.46%, while the S&P 20 increased by 0.5%. For a detailed report on how the market will perform this week, we have Dimantha Matthew from First Capital Holdings.
Market managed to end over the last 3 consecutive days on a positive note, with positive news by the governor that the EPF may re-enter the equity market. However, foreign outflows continue to be a concern. With the Fed rate hike more likely than not in September, we expect foreign outflows to continue similar to previous Fed rate hikes. This is likely to limit the upside in the coming weeks as well. With the local sentiment slowing down, we expect stagnant conditions in the equity market, the lower turnover levels and also activity.
Business magnate Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway is investing in India's top mobile payments firm Petroleum, making it its first investment in India. It is being said that the company is to invest about 25 billion rupees, equivalent to $360 million. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi's shock decision in November 2016 to ban 86% of India's cash gave a big boost to online wallets such as Petroleum, which signed up around 10 million new users within a month. Petroleum is now the market leader in mobile payments in India with over 300 million users. With Warren Buffett's investment, Petroleum will be valued at around $10 billion. The grand finale of Derana 60 Plus, a reality show dedicated for senior citizens of the country, is currently underway at the Janakala Centre in Battaramulla. 3 contestants are currently competing against each other under the most talented singer category. The most popular singer will be chosen through SMSs of the general public. This reality experience is currently being telecast live on TV Derana. Welcome back to on international news today. U.S. Department of Defense has said it will cut aid worth $300 million to Pakistan over the country's failure to take action against military groups. The announcement comes days before U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo is due to visit Pakistan to meet the country's new Prime Minister Imran Khan.
In a new blow to deteriorating ties between the US and Pakistan, the Pentagon announced today that it will cancel $300 million of aid to Pakistan for its lack of efforts to control activities of militant groups. The Pentagon said military of the United States would aim to spend the money on other urgent priorities. The move needs to be approved by US Congress. The US State Department had long been criticizing Pakistan, a key ally, for failing to deal with terrorist networks including the Haqqani network and Afghan Taliban. Following US President Donald Trump's accusations against Pakistan of deceiving the US while receiving billions of dollars, the US government in January announced it was cutting almost all security aid to the country. Pakistan, however, denies all allegations and has allowed its territory to be used to supply international troops during the war in Afghanistan since 2001. It has also cooperated with the West in fighting some terrorist groups like the Al-Qaeda.
UK Prime Minister Theresa May insists that she will not be forced into watering down her Brexit plan during negotiations with the European Union. Prime Minister May expressed her latest views writing in the Sunday Telegraph yesterday. The UK is on course to leave the EU on the 29th of March next year, but is yet to agree on a deal that the EU has suggested should be finalised latest by November this year.
Writing in the Sunday Telegraph, UK Prime Minister Theresa May says that she will not be pushed into compromises on her Chequers Agreement that are not in the national interest. The Chequers Agreement would see the UK agreeing a common rule book with the EU for trading in goods in an attempt to maintain frictionless trade at the border. But critics say it will leave the UK tied to EU rules and prevent Britain from striking its own trade deals in years to come. Theresa May, however, adds that following the Chequers Agreement in July, which led to the resignation of 2 cabinet ministers, real progress has been made in Brexit negotiations. Meanwhile, the People's Vote, a cross-party group including some MPs, is calling for a public vote on the final Brexit deal. May, calling it a gross betrayal of UK's democracy and trust, warns she will not give in to those calling for a second referendum.
Time for you to get the latest from the world of entertainment with our segment 70 Seconds of Entertainment.
Queen of Soul Aretha Franklin was laid to rest in Detroit on Friday, and the funeral service drew hundreds of music stars and a sprinkling of political figures. Though she was terminally ill with pancreatic cancer, Franklin died without a will. Under Michigan law, Franklin's 4 sons will equally divide their mother's assets in the absence of a will, and so far no signs of conflict have emerged among family members. Bishop Charles H. Ellis III, who led the funeral, meanwhile apologized to Ariana Grande after being accused of groping her on stage. Video showing the bishop holding Ariana high above her waist drew criticism from hundreds of celebrities, including the singer herself. Legendary Irish rock band U2 cut short a performance in Berlin last night, saying that lead singer Bono had suffered a complete loss of voice. Bono promised fans that another concert would be arranged. UK Potterheads got a big surprise during the annual Back to Hogwarts Day at the King's Cross railway station when Eddie Redmayne and Jude Law of the Fantastic Beasts joined the fun. Back to Hogwarts Day on September 1st each year celebrates the departure of the Scarlet Steam train to Hogwarts via magical platform 9 3/4.
Well, that was only 70 seconds of entertainment news, but we've got a lot more from where that came from. Our exclusive program Showbiz Tonight will air right after the news. Make sure you stick around for that. Here's Mahish to tell us as to what's coming up on his show. Mahish?
Well, thank you so much, Chang. Just curious, is your family crazy as the ones we've seen in Crazy Rich Asians? Well, mine sometimes is. I guess that's why it has a strong ability to hang on to the countdown. I'll have all those details and much more on Showbiz Tonight right after the news. Stick around.
You are watching Sri Lanka's premier news channel, Derana 24/7.
A very good evening and welcome to Forecast First. Starting off with your temperatures for tomorrow, they are to vary between 20 and 34 degrees Celsius, with the highest of 34 expected in Batticaloa and Ampara. Well, when looking at the map, a low pressure zone will develop in the western province and will gradually spread throughout the island. Well, most parts of the upper region of the island, including Jaffna, Mannar, Vaunia and Anuradhapura, will experience showers with thunder activity also expected. In the lower region of the island, most parts except for Kandy and Colombo will experience showers. That's all from the Weather Centre tonight. Up next is your City by City forecast.
And with that, we conclude this edition of First at 9. Thank you for joining us and have a pleasant evening. But before we go, we'd like to take you back to the closing ceremony of the Asian Games 2018, where Indonesia bid farewell to the Games on a rain-soaked evening at the Gelora Bung Karno Stadium. Many Indonesian artists performed at the ceremony, in which several performances were featured. We hope you enjoy these visuals.
Bringing you the news and information 24 hours a day. This is Sri Lanka's premier news channel, Derana 24/7.